this icon, not just a great musician, but a really great teacher in his own way.
Yeah.
And then boom, you're in Santana, and another elder great teacher, and what a wonderful way to learn how to play.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's current terminology is blessed, you know, but or earlier it would be lucky son of a bitch, you know. It's all that. Or sometimes I think, oh, you know, maybe that's the way the universe works. If you really need, you know, you can't always get what you want, but you get what you need, kind of thing. And I really needed help, so it's like, oh, we better get him to some really good teachers. So, you know, Miles and Carlos, you know, and yeah, I mean, it's funny because those two are very similar.
Well, Miles, well, Carlos is a real disciple of Miles. I mean, he learned so much from.
Yeah, and he actually always carried on that tradition. I mean, in everything.
With Lotus and things like that. That was very much, very
always pushing to be really present in the music, you know, and doing stuff that people may not even like. If you remember the Caravanserai album, it was like, what? You know, and it's one of my favorite albums.
Oh, it's a masterpiece. Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, you cannot, you know, worry too much about what people are going to think, and if you're going to do anything, they're going to take all kind of heat, you know. I mean, so did Miles, so did Carlos, you know. I mean, so, you know, well, just go through, you know, play through.
You're talking Carlos now. You're talking about the legacy of bass players: David Brown, Alfonso, Doug Rausch, Stanley Clark, Pablo Tellez, the great Dave Margin. All those guys, I mean, and you know, I mean, and Carlos again, very, very heavy. All those songs are based on bass lines, all his hits.
Yeah, bass and conga, man. That's like, you know, that's it, you know. I know, yeah, again, learned so much from these drummers. That's the other thing, these guys.
Armando.
They always loved great drummers. So for me as a bass player, getting to play with Armando and Raul and Carl, that's just a percussionist. I mean, the drummers that came through, I mean, Horacio Hernandez, I mean, Dennis Chambers, I mean, it's crazy, you know, like when I started was Wilfredo Reyes Jr. It's just been a string of great drummers to this day, you know, so, you know, so for a bass player, I learned a lot. Really, they really keep me on my toes.
Well, how do you have to navigate between all the polyrhythms and you know all the
and a lot of it is from different traditions, you know, the whole songo and, you know, mambo stuff, and it really has been a great training ground for being, you know, trying to be the anchor that everybody needs you to be, you know. So, you know, it's been fun and really harrowing at times, you know, especially when you get all these like insane drummers and percussionists all playing together, and then you got, you know, Chester or Dave Matthews, you know, wailing, and you have Carlos going, you know, like it really focuses you. You're really like, okay, I got to be here and try to find that universal one between all of them, you know. And so it's great.
Now, of course, in a lot of David Brown's parts are actually written into the song, so I'm sure you have to do your homework. And there's just some bass you have to play.
Well, in that case, I grew up playing that stuff.
Yeah, okay.
So I already knew those lines, you know. And I actually, even to this day, I revisit a lot of this original recordings because they're perfect bass lines. So, you know. Why? And I don't. In some of the songs, in the classic songs, I don't vary it at all. I try to stick exactly to what he did because it's so elemental. You know, it'd be like, you know, trying to, you know, cook rice, you know, without water or something. You know, so yeah.
You had a gig with Sheila E. How did that happen?
Oh, that was. That was after. Oh yeah, when I moved to the Bay Area.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What prompted that move? Was that a musical career
Oh, it
choice?
was yeah. I just had to because at some point I realized, okay, I clearly need some real tutelage on the
Right.
bass. So I got to get in with the mix, and so I had to leave the farm, and so I moved to the Bay Area because a friend of mine lived there. I said,
Okay.
oh, he said, yeah, come over. It's great. There's some great musicians. Oh, cool.
What year is this? This is in the
1983. Yeah.
okay. So and a very vital music scene always in the Bay. I lived there for a
Yeah.
couple of years.
Yeah. No, of course. And as you know, the Latin jazz scene there, of course, So I got hooked up with, Ray Oviedo. He played rhythm guitar with Herbie, and really
Yeah. Okay.
excellent funk and guitar, and kind of a smooth jazz-ish kind of guy now. Really great songwriter, and he lived next to somebody I was jamming with, and said, "Hey, you want to play in my band?" And that led to Sheila E. coming in because she was part of the musical community there.
Right.
And she came in, sat in at this club, Earl's Solana Club on Albany. And she came in and played drums. And I was like, holy shit, this, she was wailing. She was like, I mean, absolutely fantastic. So I was like, wow, that was fun. And she said, hey, I just recorded a new album. I need a band to go on the road. You want to play? Because we had a good bass and drums connection. So, and I said, sure, yeah, of course. And then but the thing is, I thought it was going to be all this kind of fusion stuff because of the way she was playing. And then I get the record, and it's the Glamorous Life album, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is different. I didn't expect that, So and I just learned the stuff, and we did it, and it was fun. I learned how I really had. We were supposed to dance, do all these dance moves.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about it.
And I was such a crap dancer. It was hysterical.
Yeah, but there's one. I know there's one video I've seen, or a couple of them actually, and you got to think about it. When you're studying and you're composing, you're an artist, but as soon as you step on stage, you're an entertainer. And especially with Sheila E. and Prince, and I mean, they were, not only they were incredible players and composers, they were entertainers, man. And
it was like masterful. I mean, really, and that was what I got out of that. It was like being able to see Prince work, because we opened up, we did the whole Purple Rain tour.
Right.
So we opened up, and so I got to see him every night, pretty much,
Right.
And just I'm just like, well, first of all, musically, spot on. Band was awesome, but then that extra level of stagecraft, the knowledge of stagecraft he had, the proscenium he had, the lights. Roy Bennett, lighting director, like insanely great. It was a great learning experience. I'm like, wow, look at that. It's probably just more of that same thing about theater or video. Definitely a good theatrical sense. And even in the music, I got a lot from him about developing songs. In terms of, just how nothing remaining too static all the time.
Right.
And putting in some drama when necessary. It was really good. It was great. It's fun.
Then, of course, Miles sees you dance and he goes, I want him in my band.
Yeah. Actually, we're gonna do a choreography now. Yeah. No, that was just apparently. Apparently, I say this because I don't really know, and there's so much lore in the music industry. I tend not to, but apparently it was sort of like Miles was looking for a bass player because he was enamored of that style of music and the whole.
Well, he was crossing over as Miles always did. He always crossed over into pop.
So, I guess Daryl was leaving, and he wanted somebody that from that uh, era of school, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
Apparently, management, somebody talked to somebody in the Sheila camp. I don't know who. Sheila, Prince, who the fuck knows. But I did get a call from Alan Leeds.
Okay.
Prince's road manager. And he goes, "Hey, Benny." And I was like, "You want to play with Miles Davis?" Like, what? What are you? And this is after I left Sheila, So
Okay.
I thought, Sheila was kind of mad at me for leaving, so I thought it was a joke, so set up, kind of thing.
Right. Every Miles Davis bass player tells the same story.
Yeah, and actually, even more than bass players, a lot of other people I hear.
Yeah.
Got calls. I was like, this is bullshit. I think Dennis even hung up. Dennis Chambers even hung up.
Excellent.
I remember that. Yeah, he said, "This is bullshit." And then they had to call him back. No, it's And so that's what happened. Alan asked me, and I said, "Well, of course." And so, well, here's Gordon Meltzer's name and number. Just call him. Called him, and it's like, we need a tape, kind of a tape, a reel, and
Right.
a picture, and so I put together a really hokey reel because I didn't have one, I didn't have a lot to put on there, It was
And this is the days before, iPhone, so you really had a
before everything, before electricity. So so I was putting together a little Porta studio, and I sent it off, and miraculously they said okay. I guess I had to thank probably, I know, Alan Leeds, Sheila, Prince, maybe. I don't know. How to. So.
Cool. I got a great Miles story for you. So I'm going to Berklee College of Music, right?
Yeah.
And Michael Henderson was in the band at that time. I just love me the Michael Henderson stuff.
Yeah, he's badass. Yeah.
We spent all our money to get tickets to Paul's Mall. All right.
Okay.
Miles comes on, the band's smoking. He's in a pink leather suit. Okay.
Right.
And he looks at the audience, looks at the band, puts the horn down, and walks off.
What year was that?
Oh, that had to be 70.
Okay, yeah.
74.
Oh, those are some probably wild days, yeah. Oh, wow. And that was it?
That was it.
Oh my God.
Band kept playing, they're doing their thing. And Miles just walked off.
I know their pain because we actually had to do that once. There was a run at Indigo Blue, which is that club in New York that lasted for a while. It was a really cool club. It was a small club. I forgot, it was Midtown somewhere, in a hotel. And we did a 3 or 4 night run. And on the 4th night, suddenly we were informed that Miles split his lip. He couldn't play that night. So everyone was like, well, what do we do? Do we just play anyway? Or do we just cancel? And I guess they said, well, we'll just play anyway because people are here, and it was then that I realized that, as good as the band was, I mean, we sucked ass actually because the arrangements were so Miles centric that without that voice, all the arrangements, even if we played them the same way, just fell apart. There was just something about, the energy or whatever, that it just did not work at all. It was so weird. And that's when I really learned, about how arrangement can work depending on an actual player. Even Duke Ellington used to do arrangements for certain musicians, to play, not. So yeah, that was really interesting. Well, I felt we as soon as we started playing, I think we all realized, oh, this was a mistake. Oh my God! Wait a minute. What were we thinking? I mean, everyone sounded great, especially Kenny always sounded fantastic, But still, it was just because the arrangements are built around Miles. So what do if there's no Miles, it's weird,
The band leader's not there.
And it's weird. Even weirder was Tony Williams was in the audience that night, and I was like, oh my God, Tony Williams, and he was like sitting there really like, and I remember, and he left because he was like, he was just disappointed. I was like, oh no. But
he probably figured, oh, it's the fourth night. They'll probably be really hot this night.
Yeah. But the third night, the Saturday night, is really good. Actually, it was great because it was a club, and you're just like in there. Yeah, I love that that stringer gigs, except for that night.
But I'm sure Miles obviously wanted you to be yourself when he hired you. But you still you think back on all the amazing players. I mean, come on, Dave Holland, Ron Carter, Paul Chambers, Marcus Miller, Darrell, and those guys. Did you ever think to reference them at all when you were doing some of Miles' older material? Like, for example, sure. I think there's a recording of you on the one of the live compilations albums of In a Silent Way. I think you did.
Yeah. That Silent Way was sort of like built out of that band.
Okay.
But a lot of the other stuff, I definitely listened to Darrell because how can you not?
Right.
So a lot of it was that, but the thing about that band is that the tunes would morph over time. Mm-hmm. So if you hear Street Scenes, Jack Johnson from the 70s and the 80s, is completely different, and all the tunes kind of morphed that way. Tempos would change, arrangements would change, and you just get it to a point, where then it was like the ultimate, and then as soon as that happened, we never played it again. Yeah, it was really, really interesting. He was a pretty consummate artist in that way. Very. It was so Buddhist, of just like, okay, that was the best I'm ever going to play it. I don't ever want to play it again, and he usually always lived by that. It was pretty inspiring. For sure.
Did he ever direct you on any of the bass parts? Because some of the stuff he did with Darrell and Marcus, interesting. Yeah. He had a knack for incredible bass lines.
Yeah. I did. Well, listening to this stuff, and also, a lot of times he would talk to us before the show. Mm-hmm. We'd have a little meeting, and there would be, just suggestions like, here, make it longer, but it'd be really cryptic sometimes. Some of the comments were like, just put a little lift in it. What does that actually mean? So I've definitely started listening to older stuff. It's like, well, maybe it's this. And so generally, if I got too many dirty looks from people in the band, then I said, well, I guess that wasn't it. And then if I didn't get any dirty looks, then it's like, okay, I guess this is fine. So that's kind of how that worked. But
we really have to credit Miles with bringing the electric bass into as a part of jazz, because if you remember, as we remember, where you had Harvey Brooks and Dave Holland playing electric, you had Ron Carter, and the Jazz Police, they didn't take too kindly to it.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's to this day, it's mysterious why that era is so sloughed off. All the actually, the funny thing is, all the younger musicians now that are coming up, they like, oh, that's the greatest shit ever. Wow,
right.
Because they don't have that kind of baggage that a lot of
right.
So yeah,
jazz and Ken Burns' documentary was a perfect example of the wintonization.
I was just thinking.
Yeah,
when you said that, because of the short shrift that Miles got, and that kind of jazz in general.
And the avant-garde from a few years earlier. It's almost like it never existed. Unless you were a suit, you were a jazz musician.
Yeah,
Well,
because
he is the chief of the jazz police. I mean,
well, yeah, I mean, you know, and I'm glad that documentary happened. That's great, but it does color people's perception of jazz. You know, I mean, I was also in Hawaii. I was listening to Art Ensemble of Chicago. Speaking of, I
right.
loved these guys. Those guys were fantastic. You know, they really, and Anthony Braxton. You know, I was all over that shit, man. I loved it.
You know, Tom was bringing up a good point about the bass players of Miles. If you
Yeah.
really think about Miles' music since Bitches Brew, it's always been about the bass.
Oh yeah, I even go. So what? I mean, come on. I mean, kind
Yeah.
of blue.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he's quoted, and several actually artists are always quoted as saying they listen to the bass, you know,
Yeah.
and and it's true. And also the bass in general, in I don't know, 90% of all music ever is it's like the delivery system for everything else that goes on in a song or an album or whatever, because people where the bass is concerned with people moving, right?
Right.
I mean, it's partially acoustically on a frequency level. A lot of it is below our hearing level. You know, it's feel. So that's why it's actually really kind of an important part, but it's also invisible. You know, but all the all the leaders, they rely on the bass all the time, all the time. You know, it's just like like the backbone, as Carlos always called it. It's like the backbone of everything. You know, and that's why I tell students that, you know, you can't take this lightly. This is, you know, this is actually, I mean, I do even the Spider-Man thing, you know, like with great power comes great responsibility.
It's interesting that the hip hop generation really shed light on that late 60s, early 70s Milesier. You know, how many samples do we hear from On the Corner and Big Fun and all that?
Yeah.
You know?
Take the record you did with Bob Belden.
Oh, now, Bob, yeah.
All right, so I you know, in reviewing some of the stuff that I had not known you had done, I went right to that, and the first song I go to, which is my favorite Miles tune, or Bitches Brew, is Spanish Key.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
I think that tune, the original, really set the template for all funk.
Yeah.
You can really go Parliament. That was it. And so I put on this version, and I'm like, I'm waiting for boom, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum. And Belden's great. May he rest in peace. I knew him back then.
Oh,
he was
yeah.
at the China Club with us. It was kind of funny.
Wow.
But you know, like I said, it was the first song I went to. It was you guys did such an interesting version of that. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was the whole India thing, and I forgot. I don't know. I'm not sure. I don't remember all of the tunes on that, but I do like the way Jean-Pierre came out. That was fun. But all those, you're right. I mean, you know, even that Jean-Pierre, boom.
Exactly.
Boom. I mean, you know, it's like one note repeated once. You know, you know, and that's it. You know, from that, if you're there, then anything can happen. You know, that was fun. But yeah, I forgot about Spanish Key. Yeah, it was an interesting arrangement. But you know,
what do
you know,
think about how Panathalassa came
Oh,
out? Bill Laswell did a great job with that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Jeez, he's another insane guy. I love him. Yeah, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
But again,
okay,
another overview guy. You know,
right.
that's just from. And if you listen to his early bass playing, it's so great but fundamental. But because he had the overview thing, and that led him to do all this insanely cool remixes and all that stuff. Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah.
He's from Detroit. What do you expect,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, seriously, you know, I like the fact that people experiment, you know, and not all experiments are going to work, you know. That's okay, you know. I mean, I think the greats know that, because you have to get through these failures or whatever less than optimal results to get to really good stuff anyway. So